everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another video. Today we are continuing on the build of my Gundam Master Grade. What's the full name on this? The ZGMF 1000/1A, or A1 I mean, Gunner Zaku Warrior Lunamaria Hawke Custom. And that's what we got. That's what the box looks like. And this is currently what the figure looks like. She's in pieces still, because if you watched my last video, we got the full assembly done, completely assembled and finished. And so I had to spend a bunch of time putting all those decals on. So now we've got all the decals on, and it does look much nicer. I kind of have it posed sort of in a way that I'm going to eventually have it posed. So there's kind of, you see some of the decal detail on there. It's now time to do some panel lines. So I already have some panel lines done. I did the panel lines on her shield already. So you can see that's done there. And I did the panel lines on the around the big tank. I guess it's, I don't know what they call it, an ammo tank. Is it an energy reserve tank? Did the panel lines on that. And so basically I just need to continue doing that, and it gets the weathering done, and then she's going to be complete. So I've got my Tamiya panel line accent color, and so that's what we're going to start on right now. So let's do the head. Got some on my fingers. Yeah, I want to put it on there, but I don't want it everywhere. So it's going to come down to how weathered do I want this thing looking. You know, you can clean it up so that it basically is like off the assembly line clean, or you can leave it a little dirty because, you know, it's been in battle and stuff like that. I'm gonna try and find a happy medium where that kind of comes in. So there you go. We'll just start off with doing it kind of nice and kind of messy a little bit, and we're going to clean that up in a bit. Now on these little white pieces or any things, there's no real lines I need to do on those. So let's go to the arms. Some lines it really runs in really nice and natural, and others it doesn't necessarily want to run. Now I'm not only doing the panel lines themselves, I'm also doing in creases, like along the top here where this little flare is. Basically my thinking behind it is, you know, that's like some, well, dirt would accumulate in there a little bit maybe, and of course they don't bother cleaning it out. After all, it is a military machine, which is kind of, that whole concept in and of itself is interesting. trying to keep in mind this is supposed to be something that's used in battle, like a tank or a jet fighter, or like a combination of both. You know, firepower of a jet with the armor of a tank. But at the same time, I don't see a lot of heavy wear and tear on them, which to me is a little unrealistic. And I mean, how do you want to have this presented on your shelf? Is it a pristine, fresh off the assembly line look? Or is it more like, you know, it's been in a skirmish or two, you know? So I was mentioning in my last video that I might do some battle damage. I've decided not to. I'm not going to do battle damage on this. I don't want to actually get into the whole thing of like creating dents and stuff. I am going to get into doing some mimicking some paint chipping going on in places on some edges. That I'll do that, but I'm not going to actually get into like, oh hey, it's been hit here and so it's got some damage. I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's really necessary for the look I'm going for. I think just dirt accumulation and stuff like that, and some paint chipping. So I'll be using a fine brush and some silver paint to mimic paint chips and stuff like that. But first of all, we got to do all these panel lines that I want to highlight to add to the detail. Of course, some of these are just, they're not panel lines that have been inset, they're just different panel heights. So just kind of running the brush around it along that edge, and then when I clean it up, I won't clean it up too clean, if that makes any sense. And in that respect, then I'll get hopefully, anyway, I'll get the look that I'm looking for. Sorry, it's still early in the morning. My coffee has not really kicked in and hasn't really woken me up yet. And yeah, so if I'm just kind of talking out of my ass here a little bit, that's why. So we'll start with the legs. to run it in an actual panel line. You can just kind of make it up because there's a variation in the height of these two panels, and so you want to highlight that so it makes it pop a little bit. That's all you need to do. Done to my satisfaction. Yeah, okay, so let's do this other lower leg. Yeah, let's get sloppy, why not? Okay, lower leg's done, I think. Yep. Now we'll move to the upper thighs. Probably be well served for me to one leg at a time to make sure I do the same on both legs, because it's very easy for me to forget one particular leg or something like that, simply because I'm switching back and forth from one leg to the other. So okay, one thigh done. I kind of love the fact that I can just lift up her skirt and see all the underneath. Taken out of context, that would sound really bad. But that's okay. Take it however you like. Okay, upper leg's done. Now let's do the details on her skirt. There's not a lot of detail on the skirt, but still got to be done, right? That's right. Okay. And can't forget the groin. We've got our, as I've learned, these are grenades. On her hips, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that. I didn't realize when I was assembling them that these are grenades on her hips. If I was going to have some criticism on the detail of this thing, I would say that the panel lines are actually a little too wide. The panel lines where they actually want to say, hey, this is a panel line, they seem a bit out of scale and they're a bit wide. Okay, so the bottom half is done. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull this off of the top like that, just so I can more easily get in at her waist here. You see the panel lines on her waist are nice and small. They didn't seem to follow that same detail throughout the whole thing. I'm not sure why. I don't know why. Do I care why? No. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of dry brush on a little section. The two chest vents. There's detail in there, in those spots, that because of the plastic is black, you can't really see the detail in there. And I'd like to be able to see the detail, so I'm just going to take some, just a gray color, and just do a little bit of some dry brush in there. I know I don't bother usually showing you guys my panel lining, but I figured I'd show you guys this time around so you can see what my technique is, in case that's something you're interested in seeing. And that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, so that's it for the panel lines. So now I'm going to get my white spirit and I get a Q-tip and start cleaning up. Now I'm kind of do this in sequence. I started with the head and the arms, so those I've now given them some time to dry, so this is going to be the last piece that I do. Well, I had a pimple on my face that I popped and yeah, now I got a big red spot. Oh well. So dip that in there, put that aside, make it almost dry but not quite, and we'll get to work. Now, of course, at the same time, I don't care too much if it takes a little more away than what I want, because I can always just put more, you know what I mean? Can always just redo it. You know, if there is a particular line that I want to show and I accidentally wipe it away with my Q-tip here, I can always redo it. I want a little bit of symmetry. But at the same time, it's not super imperative. There we go. And another thing, I don't mind if I get a little bit of black streaking going on, because that adds to the kind of aged slash dirty effect, which is what I want in the end, right? So and sometimes that effect is helped by actually smearing it with my finger, because my finger isn't going to really absorb any of it, and so it just kind of smears it around and helps with that kind of smeared look. Which in the end is what I'm going for. It's kind of dirty. She's a dirty girl. Well, okay, not really, but the nice thing about these Q-tips over like the Q-tip brand Q-tips is they have the pointed edge on them. On this one, it's kind of a sculpted edge, so you can, it helps you get into some finer creases and crevices without having to really dig in there like you do with the regular brand Q-tip brand Q-tips. They are definitely not made for precision, those things. Oops, don't drop it. And I think these are a firmer, whatever the cotton that they're made from seems to be firmer. So I'll show you kind of what it's starting to look like now. This arm here is now looking, it's got the lines done, and it's got also some dirt in that little corner around there, right? That's the whole point of it. Just a little bit of dirt accumulated in those little cracks and crevices, just a little bit for now. I can always add more later if I feel like it's not dirty enough. Shoulder on here is looking pretty good. I like that. Looks good. Okay. And this arm's done, so I'll show you this one. How we're looking on this hand. Look at the top of the shoulder there. So just leaving some of it in place to add some of that dirty effect in the creases and cracks and stuff like that. Yeah, just like that. Okay, so that's the other arm done. Now we'll move on to the legs. Another thing to keep in mind, I think anyway, if we're going to be adding streaks and stuff, is the direction. What direction are the streaks in, right? I try to think where gravity is going to be a factor, and try to at least keep a little bit of a mindful thought on where gravity is going to take a role in the dirt accumulation. If this was, you know, sitting for a while, without being used, you know, how would the dirt or dust kind of accumulate? I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me trying to wrap my head around the whole idea of the Gundams being real. You know, when you're doing the detail work on an airplane or on a tank or something, you can always go on the internet and you can look up pictures and reference real life photos of those things and get a reference on where the dirt accumulates and where the rust goes to and stuff like that. Of course, with Gundams, you don't have that luxury because there's no such thing. So I can't just go online and look at a real Gundam. Okay, yeah, sure, they've got a couple built in Japan, but they're not really real. You know what I mean? So, yeah, makes it a bit of a challenge to try and add realism to it, at least for me. Maybe that's the limit in my creative thinking. I don't know. think my legs are done. Move up to the skirts. Okay. Skirts look like they're done. So here's what our legs look like. Okay, if we can get this to focus on focus in there. There we go. Okay, so there's kind of what our legs are looking like now. So much more detail in there now that's visible. Back up, there we go. Much more detail in there, especially in those little exhaust fins or whatever they're going to be. Yeah. Okay, so the lower half is done. And now we just have the upper half. A lot of this upper half is just panels that are at different levels rather than actual lines. And of course it's a darker red, so they're a little bit harder to see just at first glance. So I have to keep in mind not to put too much pressure with my little bud here, and kind of wipe away as I go. I think we're just about done. Get in these little holes a little bit. Okay. And here. And there we have it. Panel lines done. So here's the chest now. The chest, because of the darkness of the dark red, you don't see it as noticeable. It's there and you can see it, but it's not nearly as noticeable as the rest of the unit. So now I want to do dry brush. So I'm going to take this is honed steel. Okay, feels like it might not even be shaking in here. Yeah, I'm almost empty, so that's okay. Yeah, she's pretty thick. Yeah, it's almost like a paste. So it's something I definitely want to replace. For now, just get a little bit on my brush, and let's just throw that out. Now I want to dry it off, and I want to get just in there a little bit. The ironic thing is I want to get it in there, but I want to see it. So I can't even call this dry brushing. I'm just kind of dabbing it in there just so that I can see it. Now, I do want to go just on these a little bit, and it's not working at all. Okay, so forget that. This is junk. I'm going to clean up my brush, and I'll be back in a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, so with that brush clean, I don't know if I can if I can show you on the camera really what I've done in there. So just inside the vents on the either side of the chest, I've just brushed in a little bit of that silver color. So now what I want to do is take the panel line and get in between those. So now it'll be just the raised parts that are silver. And I mean, I could have gone with a smaller brush and done that. That probably would have been smarter, and then I wouldn't have to do this. But that's okay. So now I want to get my silver, because now I want to do some paint chips. Now this is going to be done. I want to do some paint chipping. Where is my tiny brush? I think this is it. Tiny little brush. This is a 10-0 very small, which is perfect for what I want to do. I don't want to go overboard on it. I don't want to go crazy. I just want to put in a few places here and there. Where I think some the stupid nature of my paint drying so fast. Okay, plan B. Here's my little plastic thing. Where'd you go? There you are. Adding some water to my paint so that it's a little thinner and it won't dry quite so fast on me. It bugs the hell out of me that it does that. This particular paint I've had for quite a while now. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Now, let's see if we can get somewhere here. This is where it's going to take lots of patience and refinement, because if you start putting it on big blobs and areas, it doesn't look realistic. And it's easy to get some accumulation on your brush because it's maybe getting too much. And as soon as you start getting some accumulation on your brush, you gotta clean it off. You gotta clean it off, because then it starts to not look like realistic to scale chips in the paint. Okay. Feel like I've liquefied my paint a little too much. Again, this is the slow process, trying for realism, which can be tricky. How much do you put on for it to be real? How much do you want it to look like? You know, paint's chipped everywhere. How much damage has this thing taken? How much abuse? That's all up to you. That decision is all yours. I don't want to go crazy on it, especially with I want to keep it kind of to scale, right? There are a few hard edges that I would assume get chipped up a lot. Of course, my paint is not cooperating. So I'm getting frustrated with my paint because it's so old and it's thick. So I'm going to end it here before I get mad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble this guy's for you so you can see my near finished result. Those fins in the little chest vents look so much better now that they've been highlighted. And so there we have it. There's our Zaku Gunner Warrior. Well, right now she's nice and shiny, but once I'm finished doing all my little paint chipping marks to make it look like some paint's been chipped away here and there, you can see just done just along the top there and around that ridge, right? I figured that's going to be a hard edge. Maybe get some contact in there, right? Did a little bit here along this edge. That's not a decal, that's just that paint. And then down along the, you can see it shining here on that black, right? Just in there like that. And then of course I did right on this wrist, right on the very tip of that wrist. All right, so that's all I've done so far. So I'm going to do more, but it's just a little back heavy now. There we go. Let's try and face the camera there, lady. So there you have it. I'm not gonna. Of course, she's got the great big gun that's gonna go on there like that. But of course, she's got to have her in the holding onto the trigger like this kind of thing. But yeah, get this done, and then what I'm going to do once I've done with my silver highlighting on this, then I'm going to spray the whole thing with a flat clear, because it's not going to be nice and super shiny glossy paint anymore. This thing has seen some battles, right? That's the whole purpose of doing this. If I was doing, if I wanted it to be like fresh out of the showroom, you know, kind of thing, like it's just off the assembly line, this thing's just been built, yeah, I would just leave it the glossy color, because that's, well, it's my thing. It would be like that, right? So, but it's not. This thing's gonna have some, you know, it's got some life into it. So yeah, so with that, I'm gonna call it done, and this will be done. So when I'm all finished with it, I will take some pictures of it, and I will post it up on my Instagram, like I always do with all my stuff. And you can always go on my Instagram and see my photos of past builds. Yeah, so that's it. This is going to be done probably in the next hour or so. It'll be finished, and I'll take some pictures. And so I'm going to call it a day, and that'll be it for this, and officially call this build finished. So if you guys want, you can always head over to my Twitch and follow me on Twitch. That would be really awesome if you'd do that for me. Duplicitous_29. I'll put the links down in the little comment box below, if you want to follow me on there, and then you can watch me while I'm doing this live, if you feel like it. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and thanks for coming out. Yeah, I don't know why my voice has decided, hey, let's just wreck your voice for right now. It's not COVID, don't worry about it. It's not COVID, don't panic. Yeah, so thanks again, guys. Thanks for coming out, thanks for watching. This has been a fun build. I've really enjoyed this one. Building the RX-78 was a learning experience for me. It was my first Gundam. This is now my second, and so I knew a little bit more about what I'm getting into with this one. But it was fun, and I really enjoyed this process. Yeah. And so yeah, so again, thanks again. Thanks for coming out. I'm going to end it here, and we will see you when I start my build on my Republic of Korea tank. That'll be next build. Anyway, thanks again, and we'll see you all in the next one.